At the beginning of the story, a huge storm in the Pacific Ocean caused a shipment from a big company to be blown off course to a nearby island. Once the storm passed, a group of otters living there found some unusual boxes that had washed up on their shore. The smallest otter, being curious, accidentally climbed on top of one of the boxes and triggered something inside. Suddenly, a robot popped out of its capsule. Just then, the otter dad sneezed. Then it started talking in a female voice and started greeting them in different languages, first in German, then Mandarin, and finally in English. The robot thanked them for getting the latest product from Universal Dynamics and introduced itself as ROS 7104, a robot that could do many tasks and follow commands. It then asked what they wanted it to do first, but the otters were confused and scared, so they went on high alert. Just then, a wave crashed nearby, and sensing danger, the robot decided to escape. It tried to climb a cliff but struggled, so it copied a crab's movements and managed to get to the top. Once there, it wondered if the crab was its owner and if it needed help. But before it could ask, a seagull swooped down and grabbed the crab. Amazed by everything around it, the robot decided to clean itself up and promised to do its best for any tasks it might be given. A crow flew by and heard the robot say its slogan, "I'm a multifunctional robot. If you don't know how I can help, just ask and I'll gladly help you." Then, Roz met a badger and offered to help it find food or cook something tasty, but the badger got scared and ran away. Later, Roz encountered a squirrel and asked if it belonged to it. The squirrel responded by throwing an acorn, and in return, Roz gave the squirrel a sticker that promised a discount on its next purchase. The squirrel, not understanding, ripped up the sticker. Roz kept trying to help others, but instead of being welcomed, she was pushed away. While watching some beautiful butterflies, Roz was amazed, but the moment didn't last long. A crow swooped down and ate one of the butterflies, and then a lynx came and devoured the crow, leaving just its head behind. The chaos ended when a skunk arrived. Roz, thinking that talking could solve problems, told the skunk that conflicts could be resolved through conversation. But the skunk sprayed it instead, leaving Roz smelling terrible. After that, Roz decided to learn more about the animals around it, so she stayed still for several days, observing and listening to them, trying to understand their languages and behaviors. Some animals came closer out of curiosity, and when they licked Roz, they found it tasted bad. Finally, Roz stood up, now understanding the animals' language, and thanked the animals for their help and introduced herself again, saying that with their assistance, now she could make life easier for everyone. A little rabbit asked if Roz was there to harm them, but Roz quickly promised that wasn't true. Suddenly, a deer charged at Roz, knocking it over. The animals thought Roz was finished, but even after the hit, Roz got back up. The frightened animals ran away, leaving Roz feeling sad and alone, still searching for its creators. Climbing to the top of a mountain, Roz desperately called out to find out who had created it. When no one answered, Roz decided it needed to find a way back to the factory. But then, a lightning bolt struck, damaging her body. A group of raccoons saw this as an opportunity and stole the remaining parts of Roz. Even though Roz tried to fix itself, the raccoons refused to return the important pieces. With the most crucial parts taken, Roz set off to find its transmitter, which a raccoon had taken up a tree. Roz chased after it, and so many raccoons followed that the tree started to lean. When Roz finally got to the ground, all the raccoons went flying. In its effort to get the transmitter back, Roz followed the last raccoon into a cave. But inside, a huge grizzly bear was there, fiercely protecting their home. Then the bears attacked Roz. She realized she was in big trouble and tried to run away. While dodging the bear's swipes, Roz slipped down the mountain and landed right on a goose nest. In the chaos, she accidentally hurt the mother goose and crushed most of her eggs. When she looked at the last egg, he was shocked to see a gosling about to hatch. Roz decided to take care of it, but then a fox came and stole the egg. Roz chased after the fox and managed to get the egg back, but the fox grabbed it again during the chase. Roz ended up tumbling down a cliff, and the fox thought she wouldn't get back up, so it walked away. But Roz stood up again, surprising the fox. In a panic, the fox ate the egg, but Roz made it spit it out. As the fox tried to run away, it fell onto a porcupine and got stuck with quills. Instead of getting rid of the fox, Roz decided to help pull out the quills. The fox was amazed by this kindness and walked away. Roz remembered the egg and took it out, and to her surprise, it started to hatch. A tiny gosling came out and thought Roz was its mom. Even though Roz wanted to leave, the gosling followed him, not understanding why she wanted to go. When Roz finally got a chance, she tried to send an SMS to his factory, but the gosling pecked the transmitter and broke it. Then, Roz saw a family of possums fighting in the distance, trying to get rid of the gosling. She placed the gosling on the back of a mother possum named Pinktail. The gosling scolded her kids for not taking care of themselves, but they argued that the gosling wasn't part of their family. Then Roz showed up, and all the little possums pretended to be dead, making up stories about diseases that caused their pretend deaths. Pinktail scolded them for not being believable enough. Pinktail went over to Roz and told her that the gosling was now her responsibility because goslings bonded with the first thing they see when they hatch. Even though Roz didn't want to take on this task, Pinktail insisted she care for the gosling, saying, "I had to look after 7 kids while you only had 1. Roz didn't know how to care for the gosling, so Pinktail gave Roz 3 tasks: feed it, teach it to swim, and help it learn to fly. If the gosling didn't migrate with the seasons, it would die. Later, Roz tried to feed the gosling, first offering it a pineapple, and then she attempted to make it float, but the gosling still couldn't swim. A nearby beaver asked Roz not to litter in his river. While trying to teach the gosling to fly, a bird almost snatched it up. Fink the fox, who had stolen the egg earlier, was watching all of this. Fink introduced himself and, taking advantage of Roz's innocence, suggested that he could help take care of the gosling. But really, the fox just wanted to use Roz to get food and steal honey. Noticing the gosling wasn't eating, so he dug into the ground and found some worms to feed it. Roz, who was still hurt and needed fixing, was convinced by Fink that the best way to solve their problem was to find another robot like him and take its transmitter. Fink offered to look after the gosling while Roz worked on getting her transmitter back. Even though Roz explained how she found the gosling, Fink thought it would be better if the little one never knew the truth. Then, Fink decided to teach the gosling how to swim by tossing it into a pond without thinking twice. However, Roz wasn't programmed to hurt anyone and realized the gosling was special. Fink suggested that Roz should end her mission and let him take care of it, but Roz, sticking to her programming, refused to harm the gosling. As Roz realized she needed a home for herself and her new friend, the gosling, Little Goose started gathering wood. While passing a huge tree, they met a beaver who had been trying to chop it down for years. But the beaver didn't just want to cut it down, he wanted to turn it into something beautiful. Fink teased him, calling Roz, and suggested they steal the beaver's house. However, Fink pointed out that the house was too small for them, and it would be better to make it bigger. Roz took his advice and worked hard for weeks to build a larger home. Then the gosling began to try to talk. When he heard Roz's name, Roz 7104, he tried to say it but had trouble. Roz suggested he just call her Roz. One day, while they were working on the house, Fink decided to play a trick by throwing an acorn at a bird and encouraged Roz to do the same. Although Roz didn't really get the joke, she threw an acorn at Fink instead, which made him upset. As she continued to work, Gosling wanted to help, but Roz told him he was slowing her down. This made the little gosling sad, so Roz changed her mind and let him help just this once. Gosling got really excited and started putting twigs together, one after another. But soon, Roz began to feel stressed. In the end, they finished the house. Fink, who always wanted everything to be perfect, said something was still missing. They thought about going to the beach to find something to decorate it. Then, Fink asked Roz what name she would give the gosling. Roz suggested 0001, but Fink thought it was a terrible name and warned that the other animals would tease him. Roz defended her choice, saying her name had numbers too, and nobody laughed at her. After looking closely, Roz noticed his beak was shining brightly, so she decided to name him Brightbill. While Fink was resting in his new bed, a beaver showed up at their house, really angry. He accused them of copying his design and warned them that he knew where they lived and would come back soon. This scared Brightbill, and to calm him down, Fink picked up a rock to smash it, thinking it would help ease his fears, but Roz stopped him. Then Fink suggested telling a story to make Brightbill feel safe and loved. Being a great storyteller, Fink started spinning a tale about a gosling living on an island. But Roz interrupted, saying the gosling's family had been wiped out. Fink quickly covered Brightbill's ears and continued. He said the gosling wished on the stars for a new mother, and the stars sent a robot. The robot landed on the beach, but was missing some important parts. When the robot saw the gosling, Roz interrupted again, saying it felt stressed and obligated. Fink, not bothered, explained that the robot actually felt lucky to have the gosling. Roz added that she would only stay until her job was done. Fink finished the story by saying that no matter what happened, the gosling's mother would always love him. The story made Brightbill fall asleep. Roz then asked Fink how he could tell a story about love when he had never experienced it. Fink explained that when someone grows up without something important, they think about it a lot. As time went on, Brightbill grew up, but since Roz raised him alone, he didn't know how to connect with other animals. Whenever he tried to get close, they would back away. Brightbill admitted that his goal for the summer was to make a friend, but he hadn't had any luck so far. Seeing that Brightbill was facing the same struggles, Roz said she understood what he was going through. Fink, always the jokester, chimed in that the animals stayed away because they were just too normal. He then suggested they practice the animal sounds that Roz had learned, starting with a deer, then a bear, a porcupine, and a squirrel. When Fink asked Roz to imitate a skunk, she said no. Fink pretended to be sad and started to cry, which made Roz give in and do the imitation. Curious, Brightbill asked how she did it, and Roz explained. After their practice, they decided it was time to teach Brightbill how to swim. Pinktail and her kids came to watch. Meanwhile, Roz and Brightbill were trying to figure out the best way to learn. Pinktail said Brightbill would never succeed, that he'd crash into rocks, drown, or get sick. These comments scared Brightbill, and he didn't want to swim anymore. At that moment, Fink pushed him into the water. Despite trying hard, Brightbill couldn't swim, which worried Roz. However, Fink told her not to step in, saying Brightbill needed to learn to be independent. A beaver watching from the shore told Brightbill that if he was going to die, he should at least do it far away. As Brightbill goes to the pond, he sees other geese like him. Excited, he tried to talk to them, but they ignored him, except for one goose who recognized him as the gosling raised by a monster. He told her he had learned how to swim by studying. Soon, more geese showed up and started making fun of him, saying he wasn't like them. They even tried to drown him, which made Roz panic and rush to save him. While Roz was struggling to rescue him, a fish attacked, and to protect him, she threw stones until she finally got him to safety. Brightbill felt confused and sad, wondering why his own kind rejected him. The geese called him abnormal and said he would never fit in. Feeling defeated, Brightbill accepted his situation and asked his mom to leave. The geese taunted him, claiming that Roz wasn't his real mother and that she had actually killed his biological mom. This devastated Brightbill. Fink, angry at the geese's cruelty, tried to attack them, but Roz stopped him. Frustrated, Brightbill stormed off in anger, while Fink vowed to get back at the geese. Back at home, still hurt by what the geese said, Brightbill asked Roz about his real mother. Nervously, Roz explained that his mother had accidentally fallen into her nest. Fink jumped in to help, saying that Roz didn't mean to do it and didn't know what she was doing. Roz tried to apologize, but Brightbill, still hurt, scolded her for not telling him the truth. He said he had thought Roz was his real mom all this time, but now he wondered if he would have been a normal goose if he had grown up with his real family. He blamed her, saying that maybe with his real family, he would have learned to swim, and now he felt like he had nothing. Roz tried to comfort him. She told him that with more practice, he would get better. But Brightbill, feeling down, told her that even if he improved, he would never be accepted by his kind. He also pointed out that Roz wasn't his mother and didn't have feelings. Later, in a fit of anger, Brightbill destroyed his nest. Roz then goes to the sea to wash away his nest. While there, she discovered a magazine and some broken parts of other robots that, like her, had ended up on the island. When she picked up the head of one robot, Roz activated a video from Universal Dynamics. The video explained how robots were made to fit into different communities and how having a robot in every family could bring more happiness and free time. Determined to help one of her robot siblings, Roz started putting together the robot parts. Once she finished, she named it Paddler. For its first task, Roz asked Paddler to help her figure out what to do if she couldn't meet her responsibilities. Paddler analyzed the situation and explained that robots like them were programmed to follow orders, but sometimes the tasks were so tough that they had to think on their own. Then Roz asks what used to happen in their minds now seemed to come from their hearts. Paddler didn't fully get what Roz meant, but she felt a strange confusion. She realized that something had changed in her programming. She was starting to have feelings. Paddler, surprised, thought this made Roz defective and suggested they go back to the factory to get fixed. Before shutting down, Paddler gave Roz a new transmitter, but warned her that her behavior was a mistake that needed correcting. Feeling lost and without purpose, Roz climbed a mountain in search of answers. Fink found her and explained that he had almost been eaten while looking for her. Roz showed him her transmitter and said she would use it to contact her creators, hoping she could be useful again at the factory. Fink felt sad and tried to change her mind, but Roz was determined that she could be repaired and thought someone like Brightbill might still need her help. Just then, they spotted some geese flying overhead, which made Fink anxious as he remembered Brightbill. He urged Roz to come back and continue her training since summer was ending. However, when they returned, Brightbill didn't want them around. Still, Roz insisted she wouldn't leave him alone because she believed in his flying abilities. They spent the following days practicing hard, and Roz even built a training track to help Brightbill fly better. Noticing that Roz was missing a leg, a beaver made her a wooden one. The next day, Brightbill trained with Roz, but felt his wings were too small, making it tough for him to improve. They sought help from a hawk named Bolt, who told them that wing size didn't matter, and that even small wings could soar. Under his guidance, they started a tough training routine, and Bolt promised that with hard work, Brightbill could become a great flyer. One day, an old goose named Longneck came up to Roz to congratulate her on her efforts. Longneck, who was the leader of the next migratory flock, told RZ that even though Brightbill was different, he was a very special bird. Roz thanked him, saying he was the only goose who had shown kindness to Brightbill. Longneck mentioned that his kind often found each other boring and loved to gossip, but he recognized Brightbill's strength, noting that he should have perished long ago. Thanks to Roz, he had become a strong bird. Longneck then informed them that the flock would be leaving in a week, and Brightbill would need to train hard if he wanted to join them. If he could prove his endurance, he would be accepted into the group. So, for the next few days, Brightbill practiced tirelessly. Even Pinktail the possum joined in to cheer him on in her own quirky way, playfully threatening to hit him if he didn't push himself harder. Finally, the big day arrived, and the animal family gathered to celebrate Brightbill's progress as he joined the geese. Some still treated him poorly, but Longneck made sure everyone was ready for the long journey, reminding them to be cautious. Before they left, Longneck welcomed Brightbill, saying it would be an honor to have him in the group. Brightbill expressed that, even though he had lost his mother, he had found someone who cared for him like family. Roz thanked Longneck, but knew it was time to say goodbye. Brightbill, feeling sad, asked if she would be there when he returned. Roz, knowing she wouldn't be, told him she was happy to see him in good company. Fink added that Brightbill would find his own way and do well. Roz accompanied him one last time before letting him go. Even though her task was done, Roz felt a strong urge to hold on. She followed him for a moment, but soon realized he couldn't stay here. As Brightbill flew away, a feather fell into her hands. Even though she wasn't meant to have feelings, Roz treasured that feather deeply. When Fink saw how sad she was, he came back and asked what they would do now that Brightbill was gone. Still feeling confused, Roz said she would go back to the factory and Fink would go back to being alone. But when they looked at each other, they both realized they didn't want to separate. Fink, in his unique way, told her that she didn't have to leave if she didn't want to. Then she asked how to know if you love someone. For the first time, Fink spoke sincerely, saying that feelings are just something you feel, and it's important to express them before it's too late. When Roz turned to talk to Fink, he had already disappeared. In her last act, Roz decided to paint a picture of her son, Brightbill, while Fink went to find a cozy spot to hibernate like the other animals. As Roz returned to the mountain, she felt a mix of sadness and acceptance, knowing her task was done. She activated her transmitter, waiting to be found and sent back to the factory. Meanwhile, in San Francisco, humans picked up Roz's distress signal. On the other side, the flock of geese continued their journey. Longneck noticed that Brightbill looked upset, so he asked what was bothering him. Brightbill admitted he wished he had said something to Roz before leaving. The old goose replied that sometimes you don't need to say what you already feel. During their travels, a storm forced the flock to take shelter in a greenhouse. While they were here, Brightbill tried to make friends, but the other geese kept ignoring him. Suddenly, Brightbill spotted a robot that he thought was friendly, but he soon realized there were many robots like her, and these ones were programmed to attack because they saw the geese as pests. The Eradicator robots started shooting at them, and the flock scrambled to escape. Longneck, trusting Brightbill's knowledge about robots, decided they should follow him. Brightbill took charge and led the birds to safety, but one of the Eradicator robots locked onto Brightbill as its target. Longneck bravely stayed behind to distract the robot, giving the others time to get away. Just as the robot was about to shoot Brightbill, Longneck lunged at the Eradicator, taking the hit for him. Meanwhile, on the island, Roz woke up and was surprised to see Fink back. He admitted that he missed her, and Roz told him she had turned off her transmitter because she wanted to see if her son could fly. She was happy to see him again. Fink explained that his burrow was filled with snow, and he couldn't find a better place than Roz's home. Hearing this, Roz realized that other animals must be struggling too, and she decided to help them, even though Fink thought it was a bad idea and that they could keep the island for themselves. Roz insisted that all life, even the smallest creatures, should be valued. Using his nose, Fink helped Roz find animals trapped under the snow. Together, they rescued beavers, Pinktail, and her kids, and their home started to fill with refugees. But not all of them could be saved. Roz started to feel weak because she couldn't recharge her solar energy, but she was determined to keep going. Fink pleaded with her to take a break, but when he saw she wouldn't, he encouraged her to save just one more animal. Roz went to a bear's cave and managed to rescue him. When they got back to the others, the animals were fighting and couldn't get along. Fink tried to calm everyone down, but no one listened. When Roz returned with the bear, she asked Fink to step in and help. Using his smarts, Fink explained that if they kept fighting, they would all be in danger and needed to learn to live together. He reminded them that they were alive because of Roz, the skinless monster they had once made fun of, who had saved them from this storm. Roz, almost shutting down, called for a truce, and the bear was the first to agree, promising not to fight. Slowly, the other animals started to make peace. Roz told Pinktail that her job was done, and then she powered down. When spring came, Roz woke up and immediately looked for the geese, eager to see Brightbill. From a distance, she noticed that Brightbill had been accepted by his flock and was now respected for leading them out of the greenhouse. Even though Roz wanted to go over, she held back, worried that her presence might make Brightbill lose his new status. Meanwhile, Fink saw Brightbill and playfully bit his neck, which startled the other geese. That was Fink's way of showing he cared. When Brightbill asked about Longneck, Fink told Brightbill that Roz hadn't completed her mission and was still waiting for him. Brightbill looked for Roz, but she was far away. Just then, her transmitter went off, and a ship from Universal Dynamics came to get her. On the ship was a special robot named Ventra, who was there to eliminate defective units. Ventra explained to Roz that she had come with 6 other robots, but she was the only one left. It had been tough to find Roz because she had gone off her original programming. Ventra told Roz she needed to go back to the factory to be studied since she had strayed from her mission. Roz tried to explain that she stayed on the island to finish her task, but Ventra seemed puzzled, saying there were no humans around to give her orders. When Ventra told Roz to get on the ship and call her another name, Roz said that wasn't her name anymore, which made Ventra really angry. Just as Roz was about to board, Fink showed up and told her that Brightbill had returned and wants to meet with her. Ventra, annoyed, asked Roz what she was doing and reminded her that she had to go back to the factory. Roz said she would return soon, but Ventra knew she was lying and sent the eradicators after her. Roz tried to run away, and the bear and the other animals came to help her. At that moment, Brightbill found her and said he had something important to tell her, but unfortunately, the eradicators caught up to them before he could say anything. The bear, knowing the eradicators were stronger than Roz, decided to confront them to buy some time. The animals defended Roz, insisting she belonged here, but the eradicators argued that she didn't belong in the wild. With determination, Roz told them they were wrong and that she was now a wild robot. A small rabbit approached one of the eradicators and asked them to leave from here, which made the robot aim at him. This led to a big fight, and all the animals banded together to take down the eradicators. In a fit of anger, Ventra destroyed them, which accidentally started a forest fire. Roz was captured and taken to the ship, while Brightbill, Thunderbolt, and the rest of the geese hurried to save her. Meanwhile, the animals on the island noticed the fire spreading and went to find the beaver for help. He was still trying to chop down the giant tree. The beaver said he would help if they all apologized to him. Everyone did, except for Fink. The beaver insisted that Fink needed to sincerely apologize before he would lend a hand. Finally, Fink apologized, and the beaver agreed to help. At the same time, Ventra was trying to reboot Roz, but Brightbill and the birds attacked the ship. When Brightbill got inside, he found Roz lying still. With tears in his eyes, he asked for her forgiveness, saying that everything that happened with my family wasn't your fault. He confessed his love for her and told her she would always be his mom. Hearing this, Roz reactivated and told him she loved him too, but it was time to go home and put out the fire. In the meantime, Ventra pointed a gun at them and suggested Roz not go out of the ship. But then using a magnetic source, Roz caught Ventra and deactivated him. Other side, the animals worked together to push the giant tree into the river, which helped stop the flames. Knowing that Brightbill had hurt his wing and couldn't fly, Roz made a tough choice. She took out her main battery, placed it inside him, and jumped from the ship. She survived the fall but got hurt badly. When she reached the shore, Roz pulled Brightbill out, and all the animals cheered when they saw her. However, Roz realized that even though they had won this battle, her enemies would come back. Then the animals promised they would be ready to stand with her. Roz explained that the only way to keep them safe was for her to return to the factory. She shared that when she was turned off, she heard Brightbill's voice, and that connection made her promise that no part of her could ever be forgotten. With tears in his eyes, Fink pleaded with her not to go, saying he needed her and cared about her. The other animals also assured her that they would always welcome her back whenever she felt lonely. Roz hugged them tightly and promised that if she found a way to return, she would. Finally, Roz called her creators, and a ship came to pick her up. Fink watched her leave, feeling sad, but then the bear came over and joked about hunting him the next day to lighten the mood. Fink joined in on the bittersweet moment. As winter arrived, the animals sought shelter in Roz's house, and the curious little ones played with the eradicator memories. However, Pinktail quickly turned them off and asked Fink to tell a story. With a smile, Fink began. Once upon a time, there was an island filled with all kinds of animals who fought and ran away. One day, a robot named Roz fell from the sky, and she had some unusual ideas. She believed that kindness was the key to survival, and you know what? She was right. She may be far away now, but I know she will always find a way back. Meanwhile, in a distant greenhouse, Roz was doing her tasks when she met a human and introduced herself. "I am Roz," she said, and just then Brightbill found her. Roz hugged him and told him he could always just call her Roz. They embrace, and that's how the movie comes to its happy end. If you enjoyed the movie, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell for more updates. Thank you for watching.